Hello, I'm Nigel Freitas and welcome to Tech Report. On today's show, recycle, reuse and now re-commerce. With the iPhone 5 just days away, we'll show you what you can do with all your old Apple hardware and how you can potentially get a good price for that new iPhone 5 as well. But first today, one of the big technology trends that's making headlines that we hear about is the consumerization of IT. And one of the industries that's being transformed by that is, of course, the travel industry. With more details on how travel is changing because of this trend, I'm joined now by Mark Mison from Sabre Technologies and Sabre Pacific. Mark, welcome to Tech Report today. Can you start off and just give our audience some background as to what exactly Sabre do?
Yes, certainly, Nigel. Good morning. Sabre is one of the leading providers of technology solutions into the travel agency community. So we offer travel agents really an end-to-end solution, so a range of booking engines, mid-office systems, and also help with productivity enhancements and business intelligence. But Nigel, probably the most important thing that we do is offer direct and real-time access for travel agents directly into a range of third-party providers. So something like 400 airlines, 100,000 hotel properties, and literally hundreds and hundreds of rail providers, cruise lines, and various other tour operators and providers.
So, Mark, who exactly is your end customer here? Is it the travel agents or are it the travelling public?
Well, Nigel, it's really quite an interesting question. So we really have two types of customers. First and foremost, it is the travel agency community themselves. And so a lot of the tools and systems that we provide really are meant to be used by the travel agents themselves, both corporate and retail. But increasingly, we're working with the travel agency community to build out solutions that can be used directly by those consumers, whether they're mums and dads going onto the internet to book travel, or even corporate travellers looking to go in and book their domestic or international trips as well.
Now, this has been an industry where the travel agents and the airlines have really dominated or been leading technology for quite some time, but now it seems power is shifting to consumers. Can you give some examples of how that's actually working now?
Yeah, I think, Nigel, that's a really interesting trend, and it's certainly something that's happening increasingly in the travel industry. That traditional boundary that separated leisure from corporate travel is really starting to blur, and there's a number of drivers into that. I think first and foremost, I think what we're seeing is that the number of smartphones and tablets being used by corporate travel is growing. We know that in Australia it's as high as 40% smartphone use by travellers. For frequent travellers, people that are often flying once or more per month, that use and take up of smartphones can be as high as 75%. So we're seeing the number of devices being used by corporate travellers, smartphones and tablets, increasing. We're also seeing in a sense, the savviness of those users growing too. So, people that have often been using a smartphone or a tablet in their own personal life for 2 or 3 years, suddenly being provided with a corporate smartphone or a corporate tablet. So, increasing number of devices, tech-savvy corporate travellers, and really the perfect storm has been where we're starting to see applications from a corporate perspective that have really started to nail travel as an application for smartphones and tablets. And I think the key to that is finding really compelling things to do with the smartphone from a travel perspective. So typically, Nigel, what we're seeing is you're on the way to the airport, there's been some sort of flight service problem or delay. Looking at an application that can really help a traveller at that moment identify that there's a problem, but more importantly, almost a call to action to help them come up with some sort of alternative arrangements for their flight.
And there are a number of popular consumer apps out there now. I'm also interested in how platform as a service or how cloud computing is changing what you guys do at Sabre.
Yeah, I think, Nigel, that's another really interesting point. I think that there's always the challenge for an IT provider. You solve the problem that you're most familiar with. And so really over the last decade, a lot of those problems have been around size and scale. We can typically see as many as 70,000 peak load transactions a second, interactions between customers and the various content suppliers that we use. But the other real problem that we're facing within the travel industry is how do you build out solutions that enable customers to deal with the functional differences that they find within their industry. So we see often in Australia global solutions being shoehorned into a local marketplace here. So what we're finding is that certainly there is legitimate functional difference by region, by market, and even by customer. So something like Platform as a Service is really an ideal technology capability or platform that gives customers the ability to build out solutions that are special and different for them. So certainly what we're seeing within travel and certainly within Sabre is really a lot more of a move away from the traditional monolith style of computing to a more open framework, open platform, plug in and really allow consumers and travel agents and customers to drive out their own computing requirements.
All right, Mark, now just to finish up with, can you outline what Sabre's strategy is for the Asia-Pac region in particular?
Yeah, I think that one of the key things that we're seeing, and I've been with Sabre now for about 4 or 5 years within Sabre Pacific, we're seeing the nature of conversations that we have with our customers starting to change. So, you know, originally a handful of years ago, a lot of it was just about content and, you know, providing, you know, access to a range of air, car and hotel providers. Increasingly, we're starting to see those conversations shift, and it really is more about building end-to-end value chains and having conversations with customers that are really getting to the key problems that they're trying to solve, whether it's aggregating content, merchandising their business, cutting costs out of their end-to-end sort of business processes, and finally, most importantly, enabling them to build unique value propositions that they can then take to market.
All right, Mark, great. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Well, Amazon has